Hi, my name is Benny Johnson. As some of you know, I've been struggling with addiction. However, I decided to change my life and went into recovery. I've started this podcast 90 Days Clean, and I want to take you along in my journey. What does lie ahead of me? Let me be frank, I do not know. Will I ever drink again? I do not know. This is how Stairway to Redemption was born. It is my search for answer in a real-time process of what is going to work for me. It is then my aspiration to help you figure out what's going to work for you. It is our journey together.
Good morning, guys, and welcome to Stairway podcast about addiction and recovery. Today, my guest is Natalie. Natalie is first non-sober, but maybe sober curious. She's gonna tell us what she is for relationship with alcohol. Natalie and I met at a music event. We're part of the deep house music scene in Brooklyn and New York for a while, and we became very closely friends. And we were basically running around at the same speed when it came to drugging and using. But Natalie had a presence of mind of getting out way early before it became detrimental, and she has a much healthier relationship with alcohol than I do. I'm so grateful that thank that she didn't have to go to what I went through. And obviously, I stay in the scene for way longer. And I figured this episode will be beneficial, for her to tell us the story, and also for to hear what are the telltale signs of you know falling into addiction, or like how you can catch yourself before it's too late, because that's important too. I just don't want this to be all about addiction or people who fell into it. I think it's a good that people who managed to cut it early on and to get out of uh, to get not to fall in that precipice, also have a voice in this on this podcast. So without you, I give you Natalie, how are you doing today?
Hey, good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Mhm.
excited.
Yeah, thank you for coming. And as you probably heard, the first section of this podcast is the state of the mind address. So basically, tell us how you are really doing lately, besides something more deeper than I'm just doing fine.
How am I doing? Um, Lately, I've been feeling great. I've been feeling abundant. I've been feeling like I'm helping a community, and I'm in a much healthier space than I was in my early 20s.
Mhm.
Um, and so it feels really nice to actually finally be here speaking with you. My story is not one that I actually really tell people. For a long time, I actually felt ashamed of my story. And so being able to actually discuss it and tell it for the first time, really, um, it feels refreshing. I feel like it's the beginning of a really wonderful year, just being able to tell a story like this. So it feels great.
All right, thank you. So, perfect segue. We can move on, and you telling us your story. Uh, I think we met, I believe, in 2015, 2014. You were at the time I met you, I think briefly you were single just before we started dating somebody that we both know who was prominent in the scene, and also actively we're gonna say selling drugs. And uh from there, I will see like the two of you guys, the three of us were going to every single after I was in
We were
cocaine, like
hanging out. We were hanging
for
out
like
for
two,
sure.
I would say like for 2 years straight, like easily, and can you tell us your story, like from that lifestyle and finishing with what was the click that made you, okay, I need to get out of this atmosphere?
Okay, so I really got into the music scene. A friend of mine had taken me to an event and I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was in ecstasy with the music.
Mhm.
Um, and I had, I had never really done drugs before. I smoked weed, but I mean, smoking weed was like after high school. Like I was just very like straight narrow. And I started to combine alcohol with weed, and then it made me feel, you know, more ecstatic, I guess, when I was dancing, and the music. And then I started to add on ecstasy, right? And, ecstasy makes you feel like you're out of control and out of your body. I think this was back in 2013 that I got into the scene. I was about 23 years old. And then through that, I realized like there was a community, right? Like every human being wants to feel like seen and wanted. And I started meeting a lot of people because my friends were actually not wanting to go with me to these parties. So I actually ended up going alone to a lot of these things. I've always been really independent in that sense where I love going to things by myself. And then I remember just being introduced to cocaine, like to coke. And I was like, all right, yeah, like let's do it. Why not? Again, because you're in community and you kind of, I don't know if it was like a fitting in thing. It was there. People were doing it. I used to go to people's like lofts and apartments after or before the parties, and that's what was there. And I was like, amazing. And I would do it. And then for a really long time, Coke was like my thing. Like it just made me feel super high. And I did Coke for a really, really long time before it actually just ended up not doing anything for me. And once that point hit, I was introduced to K. For people that don't know, K is a horse tranquilizer and it kind of mellows you out. But I guess in combination with all the alcohol and the other drugs that I was doing, it would kind of take me up and down. And so that became my drug of choice. Like K was like my thing. And this was, I
Ketamine,
think,
right?
I'm sorry.
Ketamine, right? K is ketamine,
Ketamine.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. Yes. Ketamine. K. Um, I should have said ketamine.
No,
But
it's fine. It's fine.
but once I got into K, it was for a really, really long time, I think. And not only the K, I was combining everything, right?
Yeah.
So I was drinking and I was smoking and I was doing Coke and I was also like doing K at the same time. And um it was intoxicating, I think, just being that high all the time and just like being in the music was amazing. It made me feel really, really good. And then that's when we met. And I think I was already like a year or two deep in to the drug use. And this was consistent. This was like, I would leave my house like sometimes Wednesdays and I wouldn't come home until like Sundays. And it was just, my poor mother, like, just didn't even know where I was. And, at that age, she's not, what she can say to me, right?
Yeah.
And it was maybe Wednesdays and Thursdays was kind of like light, but then Fridays was a party and then going to an apartment and then an after party. And then the after party, then we went to like a rooftop. And then after the rooftop, oh, there's like another backyard party. Oh, my friend's having a private party. And it was just like a thing, and it just kept going and going, and it was a fast-paced life, and it became addicted to it. Like it got to a point where if I didn't go out, I felt like almost this FOMO of like the fear of missing out of what was going on. And that's actually when we met our mutual friend, right? And I started
Mm-hmm.
dating him, and he was amazing for what? Like he was an incredible person. But just, we'd walk into these parties and he was the guy that everybody went to. And
Yeah.
so then drugs for me became even more accessible, because before I was spending massive amounts of money on this.
Yeah.
And now I'm not spending any money, really. Like, I'm not. And so anything I needed was just there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, before parties, okay, I'd have like my bag of Coke, my bag of K, and then like some weed. And it was just like ready for me to use and abuse as I wanted. And if that wasn't enough, then they'd have more for me. He'd have more for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
um it just it was intoxicating, the feeling of just like being on top, just because like I felt like everybody knew us and people would, hey, Natalie, like, oh, and just walking into a
Mm-hmm.
space and just feeling like the community, I think, of so many people knowing you and you knowing them and connecting through music. And then I remember, I'll tell you this one time. I mean, no, I'll tell you the time where I knew I had to I was maybe like 4 or 5 years in
Mm-hmm.
to the drug use and the alcohol. Um, and I actually had completely stopped using Coke because Coke did nothing for me anymore. Like I would fall asleep. Like if I
Mm-hmm.
took it, and I know people think that sounds insane, but it just did nothing for me. And so that's when I started to use the K, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um, I just remember this one time I was at a rooftop party in Brooklyn. Um, and I did K, I did the normal thing. We had just come from a friend's. We had just done a bunch of lines. Like it was crazy. And then we go to this rooftop. And then, of course, I have my bag. And then I took like regular, like the bumps of K. And I started to feel really weird, right? Like something that I had never felt before. I started to feel like almost dizzy. And then it got to a point where I felt like I was out of my body and like I
Mm-hmm.
was up and elevated, like my feet were elevated and I was overlooking everyone. And I was there for like maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And then out of nowhere, I came down and like fell. And my heart was like racing, like, and I was just like anxious. I was like, oh my God, this, like, what is happening to me? Right. Because I've been using drugs. So like, and nothing like that had ever happened. And I was just literally filled with so much anxiety that it felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I
Yeah.
actually genuinely felt like I was going to have a heart attack. And, I sat down and I was with friends and this person, our mutual friend also. And, you know, I don't know, they thought I was just being dramatic,
Yeah.
and then that's when I realized like, I don't have anything in common with these people except for the drugs. And I was genuinely scared. I thought I was going to die from a heart attack. And to be honest, I knew, and if I didn't ask for help from someone, that I wouldn't be able to yank myself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um because I was so deep in, and I was just so used to every Wednesday to Sunday, Wednesday to Sunday, Wednesday to Sunday. Like that was the routine. And breaking a routine, whether a healthy one or a bad one, is difficult. Right.
Yes.
So at that point, I just remember that was a Sunday. I went home and I just was like, who am I going to reach out to? Like, who can help me? Because these people that are supposedly my friends can't help me. Right. And at that point, that's when everything kind of started falling apart. in the relationship also, because I wanted the change and I wanted to get out of all of that. And this person just didn't. Um,
Yeah.
and, I wasn't going to stay for someone because of drugs, like I just wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
And so I remember calling my aunt. She's like my best friend, and, you know, telling her, like, I need to talk to you. Like, I think I'm in trouble, and I think I'm in danger, and I need help. And, she thought it was something super, like, that I was like going to jail or something. She thought it was something crazy. I mean, but it was just not what
No,
she
it was
thought.
serious, but yeah, it
It
was
was
not like
serious, right? But
legal,
like,
like jail serious. Yeah, I get it.
right. Um, and so it was so hard to tell her, one, how deep I had gotten in, and
Hmm.
two, just the drug use and how bad it had gotten. And that I didn't know how to yank myself out of it. I was like, I just feel like I'm anxious, and like I want to, like, that feeling, like I wanted to go away, that heart attack feeling. So I want to do another drug to try and, like, I guess, hide that heart attack feeling. I don't even know if that makes sense. Um,
It does. It does.
and yeah, and so she was like, I gave her some time to process because I felt like it was a lot to process. Um, And pretty much that weekend, she was like, well, then you have to come and stay with me, like come and sleep over my house in my apartment. And I'm gonna help you get out of this. Right. So Monday comes along, the routine, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday comes along and she's like, hey, so where are you? Like, I was gonna get ready to go out again. I had almost missed the fact that I had told her all of this. And
Yeah.
yeah, because you're just like, oh, I was just being dramatic, right? Like, I was just in the moment, right? And so then
Hmm.
Monday passes and Tuesday, and then Wednesday comes. She's like, where are you? And I'm like, oh, like, kind of telling her, like, I'm kind of ready to go out. And she was like, no, she's like, no way. Like, not after everything you just disclosed to me. I'm gonna pick you up. And I remember her, she's my best friend. So I was like, okay, fine. She'll just do like a day and then leave me alone about it. No, she actually ended up taking my keys from me.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
yeah, she took my keys. She had me sleep over. Um, and this was for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks that we did this. Um, and when I tell you, I felt like I was gonna have another heart attack. It's literally how I felt, because I think I was just craving the drug so badly that I didn't know what to do. Like, I was anxious. I was just like, okay, like I need to move, and like, yeah, I need to do something. Like, and I was kind of combative with her even. And it wasn't intentional. It was just that I was in need of something that she obviously was, one, not gonna give me,
Oh, yeah.
and two, something that I'd been so accustomed to. So I think we did that for like 2, 3 weeks. And then I finally started to like calm down. Like, I was like, okay, like, you know, I don't, and I had once me and this mutual friend that we have, we broke up. Like, no one wanted to talk to me anyway, because he was just
Yeah.
so loved and respected in that scene. And
Hmm.
with good reason, and so I realized, like, really, aside from you, I really didn't have friends in that scene. Like,
Yeah.
none of them were my friends. Like, I thought they were my
Hmm.
friends. And then once him and I, like, things ended, I never heard really back from anyone, aside from
Yeah.
you. Like, till this day, I don't really think I have friends. Like, I have people that I know and we like, hey, like, but friends, not really. And then it really made me realize, like, wow, these people were my friends, and I needed to get healthy for me, you know? And it was hard. It was hard, to realize that I had put my body through all of that,
Yeah.
you know? And I think I was just trying to cover up a lot of anger and anxiety that I had been feeling since I was a teenager, and not really being or knowing how to process these emotions, right? And I was just like, oh, whatever, let's just party. And I was always the life of the party. And like, even amongst my friends at the
Mhm.
time, like friends that I have still now, but at the time, they'd be like, Natalie, so where's the party? Where's the underground? Like, where's the after party?
Yeah, what's
I was the girl
after?
that people came to, like, to
Yeah.
figure out where we were going next. And I was like, and then when I left, it was just like, I guess I had taken on this role, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that role anymore. And I was trying to stay away from it. And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard. It took a while. It took me almost like, I'm gonna say like 8 months to process and just kind of like
Okay.
go and not go back to
Yeah,
that.
because that's very insightful. Like you're like answering actually several questions I had at the same time. That's great because it flows well. Because one of my question was like the drugs aside, how do you let the lifestyle go? Because you are part of the scene, the music and stuff. But now that you're saying when you broke up with that person, that like I don't. Do you think you were ostracized? Do you think you were like excluded because he was
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah,
So like now,
100%.
yeah. So how do you cope with not the drugs aside, now you want to still listen to the music, still want to be in the scene, but now the scene is like being restricted because you were the girlfriend of somebody. Like I didn't see you in the scene for a while. And it's like not until maybe a year or 2 years after that that like I decided to reach out to you, you
Mhm.
know. Uh
Well,
and but meanwhile, like what were you doing? Were you like just going to events where you for sure they were not gonna be there or like
no,
like
honestly, I think that the fact that people kind of secluded me and just didn't want to talk to me, it was a blessing
mhm,
because
yeah.
I didn't want to go to the parties. I was just like, what am I going to go for if everybody's going to look at me like I have like 30 heads?
Yeah.
Like, so I just like pushed myself. I was like, you know what? Like again, it's that feeling of community. And then when you
Hmm.
lose it, it's like, I just honestly, I started to kind of, it hurt my feelings. Like I was actually really
Yeah.
hurt by it. And
Hmm.
so I just kind of, it was, I'm pretty good with going cold turkey with things. Um,
Okay.
and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on the relationship or what have you. But because of that feeling of being neglected, I just was like, I don't even want to go back.
Yeah.
Like I just don't. And then honestly, I really leaned into when I was going to parties, I leaned into going with the friends that I still have today, right? Like
Yeah.
my childhood friends, like,
Hmm.
my friend Olivia and David and my brother. These are the people.
Diego.
Yeah, Diego.
I like Diego, right? He's a nice guy.
These are the people that were really like, they were my community. Like these were my
Yeah.
real friends. And I had actually neglected them for a long time because of everything that I was doing. And so when I did want to go to these parties, we would be very intentional and specific about the parties also because, you know, I would also go with Olivia. Olivia was also very involved in the scene. And so we would be very
Yeah, I met you
selective.
guys at the same time, if I
Oh
remember
yeah, yeah,
correctly.
at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah.
At the same party. Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to
we would go
Alicia.
together. Yeah, we would go
Yeah.
together very specifically to certain parties.
Yeah.
So I really leaned into those friendships, and
Hmm.
that's really how I kind of got through with it. I just was like, now looking back, I'm like, it was a blessing that no one wanted to talk to me.
Yeah. Like that definitely helped you. Yeah, because I understand the desire of belonging sometimes is so strong like that. Like you're ready to do stuff to the detriment of your own health in order to belong somewhere, which is
Yeah,
crazy. And the thing with the deep house party scene is like when you go there, when you enter that space of it, everybody is happy there. Nobody is miserable because we are on
that's so
some all
nice.
kind of stuff. And that's why, the few occasions where we heard of like, it happened a few times, but of somebody taking their own life in the scene And we're like, wait, who? Like that guy, he always smiles and dance at parties, but no, those are like chemically enhanced. And what must go so up must go down. I hate that saying. It's true,
But
but
it's the
it's
truth.
simplified. Yeah, it's true. So you don't know what those people had in the back of their life, and we were always there in our well dressed, best behavior, sunglasses with collars, like, looking hot as fuck.
Yeah.
Everybody was, we're like on boats, sometimes it was like
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
had any problem. Everybody was smiling. You see your guy, you say, oh, he's my best friend forever. Like, it
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God. It was a surreal place. And, you know, like you said, it was a blessing that like because it's definitely the kind of environment when you broke up with somebody who's in the scene, especially our mutual friend. The position he had in the scene was like were not going to talk to you anymore. Like I still talk to him. Uh, I don't I don't even if he wasn't. I don't think he definitely bad mouth you in a way like, oh, I don't think he's when I was still in the scene, there was no like, oh, we don't hang out with Natalie anymore. That was not the code or anything
Oh,
like
I
that.
never thought that. Yeah.
No, but like
I
people would
understand.
rather, naturally do that because he was the plug, so they will definitely gravitate towards him and not you because he's
Right.
the plug.
And above all, right? Like
Yeah.
he was an incredible, like just as a human
No,
being, he
oh
is
man, I still talk to him.
right.
Like,
So
like,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
like as a human being, he is just so
Hmm.
incredible and so good to people. And
Yeah.
that was another factor, like just that. And then the fact that he had this position, like everybody,
Hmm.
you walk into a party and absolutely everyone and anyone. And if you didn't know him, you definitely knew him after that party.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I remember seeing him at the spot after France won the 2018 World Cup, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and I was in there, and we're like partying our ass off, man, like, oh bro, and I was like, yeah, it's dope, man. How you been? How you doing? And remember, and I went there with a friend of mine from work,
Mhm.
and he saw like the connection that everybody was going to him, to our mutual friend for, and he comes to me on the side. He's like, "Yo, man, this guy, he's dealing with." So like, why all those hot girls come to you? I'm like, "Yeah, you pick it up. You pick all that really quick. Like it was like a magnet, a gravitational pull." Like
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
not only that, but coupled with his like amazing character, and like he's a warm person, he's really
Yeah,
nice.
for
And
sure. Yeah.
yeah, but like, you know, the other thing, what were the telltale signs that you were falling? Like, I know you had the incident where, you almost pass out, you are having a heart attack, but what else did you told you that like, you need to get out of this lifestyle if you were to guide somebody, for example,
Yeah.
who is in the same
Yeah.
situation as you and describe you the where they are in the scene. So what time what time are you looking for to tell that person, oh shit, you're about to be an addict, like get out?
Yeah. Um, One of the really main things, look at the friendships and the relationships around you, right? So, like for me, I had no existing relationship with my mother anymore, like none. Like there was just none. She didn't know what was happening. I had secluded my actual friends too. My best friend Karen, I wasn't even really connected to her, and we've been best friends since third grade. Like there was never a time where her and I were not talking. So one of the signs I would say is like, how are your friendships and your relationships doing with your family and friends? Like really, really look at them, because if they're distancing and you're doing drugs and drinking and they're backing away from having a relationship with you, it's probably for a reason. Um, Another thing for me was when, let's, for example, like ecstasy wasn't doing it anymore for me, right? So I bumped up to Coke. And then Coke wasn't doing it anymore because I had been doing it so much. Then I bumped up to K. And then K was pretty much where my turning point was, where I almost felt like I was going to have a heart attack. So it's kind of moving from one thing to the other and kind of using one to cover up the other, I guess, if you can say. Like, just the fact that I was bumping up to more and more. So yeah, another sign would be if you're moving from one thing to cover up another one, maybe that's a sign that you need to slow down and seek help. And then a third one would be just the way that I was waking up, right? Like my
Tell me
body,
about it. Yeah.
let me tell you like this one story. I remember I was in Detroit. What is that festival?
Movement.
Okay. So
Yep.
I went one year. Amazing.
Movement, man. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And that was actually towards almost the end of everything. And, I started.
Yeah, I remember when you guys went. Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
went to Movement. I remember that.
Yeah. And then I remember it was that summer actually that I discovered everything. And yeah. I remember I went, and at the time I was doing K and Coke, right? We had ran out of K for whatever reason, and there was only Coke. And so we were doing lines and just like going in, like it was a candy store. Like and then I remember the day that we were leaving, I woke up like hell. Like just my body was like not responding to wanting to get up. Like I was in pain. The top of my mouth was so cut up and in so much pain from all the Coke, and my throat, like you felt it. Like you felt like the residue, or like just like I felt I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything. I remember that morning I tried to eat what was it? I think it was like a sandwich or something. And till this day, I still can't eat that specific I forgot the name of it. It was like a specific type of sandwich that I can't eat till today because of the trauma that I had from that morning.
Oh, wow.
So analyze what and how you're waking up. If you're feeling like to that extreme where you're feeling like shit, like step back. You know what I'm saying? Like this can be from alcohol, this can be from smoking too much weed so consistently, or combining alcohol with weed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or if you're doing ecstasy and you're waking up like shit, like just then don't step back. And I know, trust me, I know how hard it is. It's not, I'm not here telling you that it's going to be an easy task, because for 3 weeks, almost a month, I was suffering. Like I was actually in physical pain from not having the drug. So it's just about really reading your body.
Yeah.
And trying to see how you're waking up. Like after that, and then the incident at the rooftop, I just knew that I didn't want to wake up like this anymore. Yeah. Like I was tired of being tired. Actually, I think that's what it was.
So that's always a thing. So if I were to recap the 3 signs you gave me: first, your relationship with your close one. If they become strenuous and distant, that's one sign. Second, the drugs you're doing and the quantity and the upgrade. You went from ecstasy to Coke to ketamine, and finally the way you wake up, your body and stuff. Like if those things happen to you, yeah, you getting addicted. Like, the one with the relationships, that hit hard, because that's definitely not something that's something that I look at last. Like that's where like if my next question is going to be a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to say selfish, personal, But like I said in the intro, I stay in the lifetime longer than you, and I hit you up much later because I think you were doing something well in social media. You were like going to retreats or something, and I was
Mhm.
like, Nat, I haven't seen you in a while, and we started hanging out more often. We started going to shows again, but I was still using your managing. Um, if I were to ask you, what where do you think went wrong for me? I mean, that's an exercise I can do, but like you seen me at my worst. You seen me when I was like super depressed because, I called to you and I had a bright idea to, you're one of the few, I never told that story online, but when I came out from my first rehab and I was still using, my mom changed the locks on me and I texted you. I was like, hey, I've nowhere to go. I mean, I was going to go home, but my mom changed the locks on me and I was like, oh, I need to move to another city. I moved to Philadelphia and I was doing well for a while, but that saying, they say like move your muscles, change your thought, or like out of sight, out of mind. It
Mhm.
works to a certain extent, but if you don't change your behavior, and in Philadelphia, in conjunction with COVID and the pandemic, I made my contact again, like yeah. So my question is like, you know me, so where do you think I went wrong? Like, what was my tipping point? Did you see it coming, or did you? Was it a surprise when I told you that I had to go to rehab and stuff?
I was surprised. I was very
Yeah,
surprised. I do think that what happened, and I'm no therapist but I
yeah.
do think that what
No, I'm
happened
asking
was
you as
that
a friend because you know me.
as a
So yeah,
friend, I think
yeah,
you ran away from the problem.
yeah,
So instead of just, you said, I need to go to another city. And so you left to Philly and you thought that that was going to solve the issue that you had at hand, which was like you using, and it stopped for a while. And then when COVID came around and you had to be home and you had to do all these things, all those issues and those problems came back and they resurfaced stronger than before because you
I,
had been suppressing the issue instead of just kind of sitting with it and trying to confront it. Um, I think you just were like, no, let me go. I think I'm gonna be fine over there. I mean, no
yeah,
one obviously expected COVID to happen, right?
yeah,
A lot of people were also lonely during COVID
hmm,
because you were in your apartment, like by yourself. Like a lot of people, I happened to live with my mom at the time,
yeah.
but I think the loneliness also brought back all these resurfacing issues that were not solved before you left.
I mean, me personally, loneliness was not the issue. I definitely moved more so to change a thought because like I was thinking of you. I was like, you took yourself out of that environment. I need to take myself physically out of that environment and everything gonna be fine. I like move a muscle, change a thought. I didn't need to work on myself. The solitude for me, I like being alone. And actually in that building, I made great friends.
Mm.
And during COVID, we were hanging out in the building. Like the rooftop was open, the thing was open. But like it was more of um like when the fire in the apartment happened and I was stuck in the hotel for 45 days, that one is what like killed me because when I came back from that, even in my own apartment, I couldn't clean anymore like I used to. I didn't have the same rhythm because in the hotel room, even one before I was drinking and using, I could go to the gym, I could cook, and those were taken away from me
Yeah.
when I was in the hotel. So like my routine as because there's a difference to me between solitude and isolation. I love
Mm.
solitude, right? I love being alone, doing my stuff. I have my social battery. I go to people. That's why even in the building when I was hanging out with people, I always needed to take myself back. But like that solitude turned into isolation when the drug use increased. And that was where like I was like, I didn't need, because I will always come out, say hi, hang out with people, and I actually go back. But what killed me was the lack of, like, among my, I was still a functional uh addict. And once the my what make me, function was taken away by taking away I'm telling you, like, the gym for me is so important. And when I was used to my cook and see that I'm too skinny, I could stop for 2 weeks just to regain the weight and be like, okay, now I look good again, because that's how I feel. Like, okay, now I can use again. Like, that's crazy. But like that was
Yeah.
what my mentality. But yeah, I think like you said, I thought that I could just switch city and it will solve my problems. But that was a dumb idea. I mean, that was smart at the time, but
Well, you thought
yeah,
that that was what was best for you at the time, so it wasn't dumb. I think that
yeah,
you were in a routine. My question to you is, I'm like asking you a question on your
of course.
podcast. Um, w- what was difficult about getting back into the routine after the whole fire incident happened? Like,
Oh my God.
why couldn't you get back into the gym, into like the routine? Like, what kept you? What made you dig deeper into the addiction once that
Uh,
happened?
because like at the hotel, it was nice hotel and stuff, but first of all, the internet was too crappy for me to do at the time. So I mean, I'm a software engineer and I run like softwares that like require sometimes higher connection. So there was a time where like they needed to send me work, needed to send me like hotspot. So like I could not be on the hotel Wi-Fi. And basically the day to day was me trying to do serious work on a spotty internet, getting lose my patience. The hotel was even closer to my drug dealer. So within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because one of those weeks I went to Houston for my friend's wedding, but all I was doing was, drugs during the week in my hotel room, just to pass time, being bored. What I can do, I cannot go to the gym. And I picked up that habit and it felt really great just to not do work and do drugs. And like be on the internet, just hang out with people. And I took that habit back with me to my apartment. And I'm like, because I didn't have to clean the room, like in a hotel room,
Yeah.
there was room service.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
didn't do to do dishes. There was no dishes. Like, it was
Yeah.
easy. Then now you go back to your apartment, you're like, okay, I need to take care of that space. There are things to do.
Right.
Now like I don't have any excuse for the internet. I have my internet, but meanwhile I already pick up some bad habits, and it was hard, especially when I already, I was already an addict, and the fire put my addiction to another level where I was no longer functional addict. I was just straight addicted. That was like the start of the destructive phase of my
Mhm.
addiction, because before that I could always keep it together. You know,
Yeah,
that's when,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
after I was like, rent, we need to pay rent, man. Like, I started putting off stuff that priority was not set, like
Mhm.
starting doing thing. But yeah. Next question now. So like speaking of alcohol, drugs. So what's your relationship with alcohol and drugs? You still smoke, right? If I'm correct now. Like
I smoke. Yeah, listen, for me, a little weed, they don't hurt nobody. You know what
okay,
I mean?
yeah. I mean, it's you. I'm not judging. I just want to know where's your where do you put yourself now? Because like you have your head on your shoulder, you behave like, and it's amazing that, because that's why also beside being my friend, that's why I like you having here, because just to show also people that you don't have to reach bottom. You don't even have to become an addict before quitting stuff. Like, you can be
Right.
in that phase. That's why I asked about the signs or the telltale signs about when it's about
Yeah.
to go down. You can definitely, jump ship before it sinks. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
what's your relationship with alcohol and weed?
So, so I honestly, I don't do drugs. Like,
Yeah.
that's not even in my space. That's not even a thought. That's not even something I think about. I am so addicted. My addiction is not to a healthy lifestyle, right?
Mhm,
Ironically. So, like, now that I'm so addicted to this lifestyle and to the way that I'm living it and to just
mhm,
like waking up and feeling good, I never want to go back. And so I have decided that this feeling is much better and greater than going back and doing any drugs. Because even after, let's say that after I kind of was better and I did still do drugs from time to time, I would wake up the next day and I'm like, ugh, I remember why I hated this. Like, this is awful.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
at the moment, it's so great. And then now it
Mhm,
just sucks. So, drugs for me, non existent, really non existent. I don't do them. Um, I'm never really around people that do them. If they are, it doesn't trigger me.
mhm.
Um, for a long time though, it's funny. For a long time, I couldn't go to the scene, what we call the scene,
Yeah.
the deep house
Oh,
scene,
yeah. We know the scene. Yeah. The scene is the scene.
because because I was so triggered. Like,
Yeah.
I have stopped loving the music altogether for a long time because I
Oh,
was so triggered every time I heard it, or even when I DJ'd. Like,
yeah.
there
Oh,
was
my
a phase where I
God.
DJ'd.
Yeah, that's true.
I sold all my equipment to you because
Yeah, about
I'm
it.
telling you, there was so much trauma behind the abuse that there was nothing in me that wanted to even do it anymore because I had just taken the love out of it and created that into an addiction. So
Yeah.
for me, there is like no drug use.
Mm.
Um, as far as weed, from time to time, I'll have like a little J here and there, like, and that's like once I'm done with the day and I have to chill, or I'm taking the day to myself and I'm like, all right, little weed don't hurt nobody.
Mhm.
And as far as alcohol, man, I had a really bad experience with alcohol. So I realized that from the drugs, um, I had stopped, right? And then I put that all into alcohol because
Okay.
since it's
Yeah.
legal, then it's not that bad, right? It's like alcohol's cool because it's legal and it's like not. And I had a super traumatic and awful experience with alcohol. Um, and that was in 2021, June of
Huh.
2021.
Yeah.
Um, I had a really, really shitty experience with alcohol. And really after that summer, don't get me wrong, I'll have like a cocktail with, like, if I go out with my friends, like I'll have a cocktail, maybe
Yeah.
two, maybe I'll have a beer. And there have been times where after I have gotten drunk, but like really, like alcohol's not really in my space. It's been recently since December and January that I kind of was drinking a little more. But now I'm kind of even stepping back from that too, because I'm like, like I'm getting back into the thing, and I'm
Yeah.
okay with like having a beer, like, or having maybe two beers, or maybe having a cocktail, but it doesn't have to be to that extent. So really the only thing that I'm really doing is like I'll smoke weed from time to time, but
Yeah.
I've built a relationship where like none of this is really in my space. Um, Especially with like the community that I'm building and the healthy space that I'm building for myself. There's just
Mhm.
kind of like no room for it. Like I've filled up those voids that I was trying to kind of block with the alcohol, or
Oh,
just fill in
yeah.
with the alcohol and the drugs. And I filled it in with community and with going to retreats and with meditation and yoga and journaling and all these things. Now my lifestyle's filled up with these things
Mhm.
that are filling me and that are making me a better person and that help me. Um, and for a long time, I mean, now thinking about it now, I was very much trying to fill a void, right? Like, I used to be a very anxious person. And
Yeah.
so I think I was trying to block my anxiety and my anger, because I also used to be very angry with the use of drugs and alcohol and like all the good stuff. So
Yeah.
right now I'm healthy. I am feeling really good. I'm in a space where like this no longer consumes me. But I do understand the feeling of it consuming you very much. I
Yeah.
do.
No,
And it's
it's great
yeah.
because when you get rid of an addiction, that void needs to be filled with something positive and
Yeah.
constructive and productive because
Yes.
it's easy to replace an addiction by another one.
Very.
And yeah, so this leads us to now your movement that you're creating. I admire you for going on retreats and going to Guatemala, no phones retreat, those kind like or
Yes.
Colombia. I'm like, okay, I need to do one of those, man. So you created that movement called Stay Grounded. What an amazing name. I'm gonna add a description and link to stay. So what is Stay Grounded? Actually?
So Stay Grounded is a space where we help people really find intention and being grounded through all emotions and all phases and all moments of life, right? Like it's impossible for us not to feel anxious, sad, worried, and all these bad emotions that come up in life. It's very normal, but it is our duty and our responsibility to find ways to ground that, right? And that's where the name came from. That's where it was born, really, out of the idea that how do I find ways to stay grounded, right? Myself. And I've, through the years, learned about these things that make me feel grounded and connected to myself, even through the anxiety. Perfect example was today. I woke up feeling anxious. So I said, what is the one thing that helps me when I'm anxious? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for a yoga class this morning. That it's calling me and needs, like, I need it. And ironically, the yoga instructor her whole class was based off anxiety. So it's
Okay.
just like, that's what Stay Grounded is about. It's really about enhancing people's human experiences through our products, through the experiences that we lead, and finding ways to, stay grounded and stay connected to yourself on a deeper level.
Okay, so I see that you also had a couple events where like you had a mic and were speakers, and there's one that was very powerful of like basically the woman were defining themselves by using adjective, I'm strong, I'm fierce, I'm this,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
so how often you told those like where did that come from? Like how you get like people involved in that stuff?
To be honest, I had a woman that I know, her name is Marcella. She invited me. She's like, "Hey, we should collaborate on doing a retreat." And I had never thought about that because during that time, this was back in April 2021 actually. Um I was still kind of like in the middle of discovering my voice and being really afraid of what people thought. And so she really, I guess, saw something in me and was like, I think that we should collaborate in doing this event. And I was like, sure. And through that, I started to realize that I do have community of people that believe in what I'm doing, right? And believe in like everything that I say. And we actually ended up getting like 15 or 18 girls signed up in the middle of like a pandemic almost, because it was like, it was like that weird space where people were still going out, but then they weren't, but that they were
Yeah.
scared. So it was incredible to see that we got like 15, I think it was like 15 or 18 signups. Um, and even today, some of these women still like will text me or DM me and say, "Hey, I just want you to know that that retreat changed the trajectory of my life." And it inspired me, right? So that's the only retreat I've done, but keep a lookout because for 2024, we are definitely looking to do a world tour, a self-care world tour.
Walter. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So we will definitely be opening up the space for more of these because I'm a big believer and also Stay Grounded is very community based, right? Like I believe that when you're in community and you don't feel alone and you speak up about a lot of the things that worry you or make you upset or societal expectations of you, we become stronger because
Yeah.
you finally feel like you're not alone. Like you finally feel like, okay, um, this person is actually going through something that I am experiencing. And then that's when people connect. And that's when you build friendships and community. And so Stay Grounded really is based off of that. And these retreats have really the one retreat that I did has really filled me up. 2022 was a very transformative year for me. I was going through a lot.
Yeah.
The last 6 months of 2022 were like I'm like in my power. Like I'm not very nervous about it anymore. I know that there's going to be
Mhm.
uncomfortableness, but this year we'll definitely be doing a lot of really dope experiences for people to come and meditate, journal, and connect. And we're gonna collaborate with different artists to do this, right? Like we are collaborating with a DJ and we're collaborating with a yoga instructor. We're collaborating with a person that does like bath salts, like creates them so you can create them from
Mhm.
scratch. And these are the things that they really fill you up, right? Like it's about seeking community and finding the things that connect you to yourself a little deeper. Because it's easier said than done.
No, yeah, it is. It totally is. I agree with you. And thanks to you, I started dabbling into like the whole. I mean, I would usually meditate, but like I'm gonna check a Reiki session this
Yeah.
afternoon and ask
Yeah.
your opinion about it. I did a sound bath like 2 weeks ago, I believe. That was very relaxing too. I dabble in those like spiritual events, I'm putting my toe now, because any alternative to drinking, but also like those help me stay grounded, to play on word.
Yeah.
But
See?
yeah, yeah.
This is a
Like in the
perfect
whole
example of what staying grounded means, right? Like you're like, I did the sound bath and it made me feel like for you, it's the gym, you
yeah.
know?
Oh no,
It's
for me it's the gym, it's a martial art. People think like, kickboxing is it's just like I'm weird, man. Like the gym and martial art calm me down, like once I'm done with a session.
amazing.
And I remember like, when I was telling my friend who is like, oh yeah, Benny kickboxing and stuff, so, it's cool because I told him like I couldn't come to like a AA group because I was at kickboxing. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool, but the rooms are more important." I'm like, I mean, he's a bit older, so he
Well,
doesn't get
we
it.
all have different things that ground us. And I think that you setting that boundary and kind of creating that space for yourself where like, no, this is what actually helps me.
Me, yeah,
It's very
right,
constructive. Like
yeah,
this is you getting to know yourself on deeper levels. So
yeah.
I actually really hope to see you in some of our experiences and
Oh
events.
yeah, sure. I'm gonna come.
I need you
Yeah,
there because
I'm I'm
yes.
inviting myself to your event. That's how committed I am. So
I love that.
expect
I
me
love the
to,
commitment.
yeah, like and one last question before I give you the floor. Now that it's your space, you finally finding your vocation. How is it? How hard is it to one make a living out of it, and also let your close one that like this is what you want to do? Because people most of the time are not receptive to anything that's like spiritual
Different.
or like event different. If it's not a 9 to 5 job, you're not making any money. That people are like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? But you too, you were in the 9 to 5 job world and you are not satisfied with that. So how what are all the challenges you're facing on that point?
So I remember I got fired from my 9 to 5. I was a paralegal in
Mhm.
2019. And I just remember I was anxious for like 5 seconds. And then I took a deep breath in and I was like, I'm safe, and I had already been doing my practices for like 2 years. So like yoga and like all this stuff that was helping me. So when I got fired, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be okay. And then that day I remember it was June 6th, 2019. It was like 2 weeks before my birthday. And I was like, I will never in my life go back to an office. I will not. It's good for some people. It's just not for me. And I knew that. And I think that I was trying to fit into this mold, right? Of you need safety. And honestly, I don't know that 9 to 5s are necessarily always safe. Like it is safe for some people, but they can dismiss you and let you go if they feel like you're not a good fit. So how safe is that? Right. I
Yeah.
started to realize like, this isn't for me. I don't feel safe. I don't have to fit into this mold. And I mean, to be honest, in my family, I've always been that person that kind of like stays away from what's like supposed to be done.
Yeah.
And I even got into law school, and my parents were like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're not going to law school? Like, I'm not going to law school. And it was like a whole thing. And so once I got fired, I had unemployment for 6 months, right? And then I started to kind of figure it out. Like I would just get these jobs and started freelancing. Like when I tell you, I still do it till this day. Like while I try to get my business going, it is not an easy life, and it
Yeah.
is not for everyone. I'm not saying this is for everyone. It's just what fills me and what makes me happy. I still do like babysitting jobs. I still walk dogs. I'll do fashion shows for like Tory Burch, or I've done like Apple TV production shows. Like I do it all. And
Yeah.
to tell you that my schedule for work is filled for February, but I have no idea what the fuck's happening for March. That is my life.
Oh,
That's my life. That's my life. And you know what it's taught me, it's that I used to be a really big control freak, very big control freak. And now I've learned to surrender. Like surrendering was such a hard thing for me because I always wanted control over everything. Like, and it's again that thing that they always taught me to feel safe. And I think that's why I always wanted control. Now I'm like, man, abundance is so in me. Like I listen, and I didn't. January was like, because I know that for my line of work and what I do, like production work and yeah, obviously production work and like things like that. January is real quiet. So
Yeah.
because I've been doing freelance work for 2-3 years now, no, 19, 20, like 4 years, we're going on to 4 years. I already knew that. So I was like, I prepared myself
Yeah.
for January, right? So now February has been full of work, and I'm okay with just like not knowing. And so it's hard. It is very hard. My route is not easy. Like I am finally kind of picking up people that are hiring me for meditation and journaling experiences, which is what I do, right? I have a birthday party that I'm doing in a couple weeks. Like I never
Oh,
thought
okay.
like a birthday party. And she's like this beautiful, mindful person. And she's just like, that's how I want to bring in my birthday, with something. So I'm doing, these these collaborations with these people for events. I'm doing, what else am I doing? I'm doing a big event with like a nonprofit to,
Okay.
I'm just like it. And it took me years for this to come to light. Like it wasn't an easy route. Like, and for a long time I doubted myself, right? And to be fair, my parents still don't understand what I do. They don't. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's the closest people to you that won't have. It's not in malice. I think it's because they want safety for you. Um, but they don't have your back the way that you would want them to until you finally make it, until you're
Yeah.
finally making the money and saying, okay, my business is $1 million business, or like I'm making 6 figures from my business. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I'm making, even if you're making 50,000 a year, that's still a lot as an entrepreneur. Like people just downplay that, because it's not a 6-figure income, but making $50,000 while you're doing all of these moving parts, that is a lot, and people are like, well, what do you get from it? right? Like, I'm like, the freedom of I basically create my own hours. Like, if I don't want to take a job, I don't take a job, I just don't. And I don't have to, the ability for me to help my community, the ability for me to use my voice. My voice was literally paying my bills. Like, just
Literally, yeah.
literally, like my voice is what pays my bills. So
Yeah.
why would I not use that, right? And I know that my family's like my cousins and stuff are like now starting to understand that. I think for a long time it was very weird for them to understand it, because when I was younger, I was a very angry person. Like, just like, I was a mess and I was mean and I was vicious with people. And so I think when I started to change, it was like, what? Like, where did you come from? And I started to calm down a lot. And so now that it's been a couple of years and I've been in this since like 2017, now they're like, all right, like, this is the, like, our cousin, this is what she does. Like, I'm starting to feel the love. You know what
This
I'm
is what
saying?
she
Like,
does. Yeah.
yeah, like now my because all my cousins were all very close in age. Like,
Yeah.
my brother is 33, I'm 32, my other cousin's 31, the other one's 30, the other one's 29, 20. Like, we're all very close in age. So like now they're like, oh yeah, like, that's, Nataly does that. Like, that's what she does. So it's like starting to kind of feel nice to feel that like they have my back,
Yeah.
and they understand what I'm doing. Eventually my parents will get on board. It just takes time. But as far as the journey, it is very hard. It's hard. Sometimes I am up till midnight, 1 o'clock working, and is that a luxury? Yeah, because when I'm doing the work and what I'm doing, and let's say I'm putting together like an event for someone, that's fun. Like, I'm up until 1 a.m. putting something together to create an experience for a bunch of people, or to get my podcast started, or to build my website, which is almost done finally.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it's
That's
fulfilling. It's really fulfilling work. It's hard work, but it's fulfilling work. And so I think that I would rather be this freelance person that is just figuring it out while doing something that she really loves. I'd rather be that person. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5 and also doing a side thing that you love. I know a lot of people that do it. It's just not for me. Like, I just know it. And I remember just the miserable feeling that I felt being in an office, and how I got fired because I was a manager and didn't want to take on more responsibilities without more pay.
Yeah.
And I never want that feeling again. I know what unhappiness was. That was it. And I never want to go back to that. And I won't.
That's what beautiful way to end this interview and tell us, how you really feel. And we went basically from how to avoid the pitfalls of addiction to, once you're out of it, how to live like a full, fruitful life, and then the challenges of living and staying true to your core, regardless of the pressure of society, of like what money entails, making money entails and stuff. So like we went like around the globe when it comes to basically mental health and staying true to yourself. I thank you a lot, Nataly. And guys, I will see you for the conclusion.
That's it, guys. That was episode 16. Big thank you to my dear friend Nataly for being the guest on this episode. Nataly knew me at my best and my worst, and it was good to hear her story in conjunction to my story, because they're kind of intertwined. They have some passage in common. And I really appreciate her insight on like the causes or like the telltale sign that somebody might fall in addiction. Get out of there before it's too late. Not that like falling in addiction is the end of the world, but it will save you a lot of trouble. I did also in the description a link to her like page for Stay Grounded, her new movement that like I salute and support 100%. Yeah, so that's it for and little note, I attended the Good AF as Alcohol Free Awards this week. That was an award ceremony show for alcohol free drinks, and yeah, it was amazing. It was a fun time. So a lot of people who are either sober or super curious, and a lot of shout out to Lorelai for organizing that great event. I'm gonna talk more in detail about it in the next solo episode, just to make sure. But meanwhile, you can see some pictures and also some videos on our Instagram page at Stairway to Redemption. Okay, guys, I will see you next week. Bye.